History is a lie agreed upon. We are taught that the Renaissance was inevitable, that Europe's rise was destiny. But look at this map. In 1260, the Arabic language was one bad afternoon away from becoming a dead tongue. The great libraries of Cairo, reduced to ash, Rome, a Mongol outpost. This isn't a fantasy. It was the 99% probability on the morning of September 3rd, 1260. Picture this. The desert of Galilee trembles beneath 10,000 hooves. The Mamluk army, outnumbered, outmaneuvered, has been shattered. Sultan Qutuz lies dead in the sand. The Mongol horde, unstoppable architects of ash and silence, push forward. Cairo will fall within weeks. The scholars of Al-Azhar will burn with their books. And the Mongols, these riders who erased Baghdad, who turned Persia into a graveyard, will not stop at Egypt. They will cross the Sahara. They will breach the gates of Fez and Marrakesh. They will sail the Mediterranean and march on Rome. This is not our history. But it almost was. But there is a detail in the Mongol archives that most historians ignore. A single decision made by one man, thousands of miles away, that actually decided the fate of Ain Jalut before the first arrow was even fired. We'll look at that secret document at the end of this journey, before we descend into this dark alternate timeline, where one of history's most pivotal battles ends in catastrophe. Subscribe to Vestiges of Islam and hit the bell. Don't let these histories, these warnings from the past, be forgotten. But that nightmare did not come to pass, and we must understand why. By 1260, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in human history. Under Genghis Khan and his successors, they had swept across Asia like a biblical plague. Cities that resisted were annihilated. Entire populations were executed as examples. The siege of Baghdad in 1258 left the Tigris River black with ink from the destroyed House of Wisdom and red with the blood of 1 million souls. The Mongols were not just conquerors. They were existential threats to civilization itself. This wasn't just warfare. It was a geopolitical reset. The Mongols didn't just want land. They created a civilizational collapse so absolute that even 800 years later, the Middle East is still recovering from the hegemony they established. They engineered what can only be described as a genetic bottleneck in certain regions. Entire bloodlines, entire intellectual traditions, simply erased. By the summer of 1260, they had taken Damascus. They had taken Aleppo. The Islamic world was on its knees, fractured and terrified. Only one power remained with the will to resist: the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. The Mamluks were former slave soldiers, men forged in the fires of discipline, combat, and survival. They had overthrown their Ayyubid masters and claimed Egypt for themselves. And when the Mongol general Kitbuka sent envoys to Cairo demanding submission, Sultan Qutuz did something no other Muslim leader had dared. He executed the envoys, and he marched north to meet the Mongols in open battle. On September 3rd, at a place called Ain Jalut, the spring of Goliath, the two armies collided. The Mamluks used deception, feigned retreats, and superior cavalry tactics. And in the chaos and dust of that single day, they did the impossible. They defeated the Mongols. Kitbuka was killed. The Mongol advance shattered. And for the first time in decades, the invincible horde was forced to retreat. The Mamluk victory at Ain Jalut did not just save Egypt, it saved the Islamic world. It saved North Africa. And as we will see, it may have saved Europe itself. But what if it hadn't? Let us return to our dark timeline. The Mamluks are defeated. Sultan Qutuz is dead. The Mongol general Kitbuka sends word back to Hulagu Khan, the grandson of Genghis. Egypt is open. Within 2 months, the Mongol horde reaches the gates of Cairo. Cairo in 1260 is one of the greatest cities on earth. It is a center of trade, art, and knowledge. The scholars of Al-Azhar University debate philosophy and astronomy. The markets overflow with spices, silk, and manuscripts. This is not just a city. It is the beating heart of Islamic civilization in the aftermath of Baghdad's destruction. And the Mongols show it no mercy. The siege lasts 3 weeks. When the walls finally fall, the Mongols do what they do best. They kill the garrison. They enslave the women and children. They loot the palaces, and they burn the libraries. Centuries of scholarship, of medicine, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, go up in flames. The works of Ibn Sina, al-Khwarizmi, al-Farabi, Ibn Rushd, works that had been preserved, copied, and studied for generations, are lost forever. The transmission of knowledge from the Islamic Golden Age to the European Renaissance is severed at the root. As Cairo falls in this alternate timeline, it's easy to think the Mongols were invincible. But remember that secret I mentioned? Even as Cairo burned, the Mongol High Command was hiding a fracture that would have changed everything. We are getting closer to that revelation. Without Cairo, there is no intellectual refuge for Muslim scholars fleeing the Mongol advance. The great diaspora that, in our timeline, preserved and transmitted Islamic learning to Europe and beyond, never happens. The Renaissance, built on the rediscovery of classical knowledge preserved by Islamic scholars, is delayed or diminished entirely. The scientific revolution that followed may have been impossible. This is not hyperbole. This is the fragility of history. One battle, one city, and the trajectory of human knowledge has changed forever. But the fall of Cairo is only the beginning of this nightmare. And here is the question that keeps historians awake at night. Did the Mamluks save the Islamic world, or did they inadvertently stunt it? Some argue that a Mongol-ruled Europe and Middle East would have created a Pax Mongolica, a unified world state that would have avoided the world wars of our timeline. The Mongols, after their initial conquests, became sophisticated administrators. They protected trade routes, religious tolerance. They created the largest zone of free trade and cultural exchange the world had ever seen. Was Sultan Qutuz a hero, or did he stop a global unification that could have changed everything? Would a Mongol-dominated world have been more peaceful, more prosperous, more technologically advanced than the fractured, warring civilizations that followed? Let the debate begin in the comments. I want to hear your theories. With Egypt broken, the Mongols do not stop. They never do. In our timeline, the Mamluk victory at Ain Jalut halted Mongol expansion at the edge of Africa. But in this alternate history, there is no bulwark. There is no line in the sand. And so the Mongols turn west. By 1262, Mongol scouts reach Tripoli. By 1264, they have taken Tunis. The Hafsid dynasty, rulers of Ifriqiya, crumbles. The Almohad remnants in Morocco try to resist, but they are a shadow of their former selves. City by city, oasis by oasis, the Mongols conquer the Maghreb. And then they push south into the Sahel. Timbuktu, the golden jewel of West African trade and scholarship, falls. The manuscripts of its great libraries, some of the oldest Islamic texts in existence, are scattered or destroyed. The trans-Saharan gold trade, which had fueled economies from Mali to Venice, collapses under Mongol control. But the Mongols are not finished. By 1268, Mongol forces cross the Strait of Gibraltar. They land in Andalusia, in what remains of Muslim Iberia. The weakened Nasrid Emirate of Granada offers no resistance. The Christian kingdoms of Castile, Aragon, and Portugal are already exhausted from the Reconquista. They are not prepared for this. The Mongols strike north into France and east into Italy. By 1270, Sicily is under Mongol occupation. By 1272, Rome itself is threatened. That the Mongols would have overextended themselves, that supply lines across Africa and Europe would be impossible to maintain. And perhaps they would be right. But remember, the Mongols were masters of adaptation. They conquered China, they ruled Persia, they learned to govern, to administrate, to sustain. In this timeline, Europe does not face a brief raid. It faces subjugation. The Catholic Church fractures. The Papal States become vassals. The fragile alliances of medieval Europe dissolve into chaos. And the great project of European Christendom, the idea of a unified Christian civilization standing against the East, collapses. The Crusades are over, not because of Muslim victory, but because the Crusaders themselves are now subjects of the Khan. This is a world unrecognizable, a world where the Mongol Empire stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic, where Europe, Africa, and Asia are united not by trade or culture, but by conquest. And it all hinges on one battle, one day in 1260. So what does our world look like without the Mamluk bulwark? Let's fast forward. It's the year 2026. You are watching this video, but in the dark timeline, would you even exist? Without the Mamluks, Islamic civilization does not recover from the Mongol invasions. The Great Sunni Revival, the Ottoman Empire, the cultural flowering of the 14th and 15th centuries, none of it happens. The Ottomans, who in our timeline would conquer Constantinople in 1453 and reshape Europe, never rise, because Egypt, their ideological and economic predecessor, was erased. Europe, meanwhile, exists under the shadow of Mongol vassalage for generations. The Renaissance occurs, if at all, not in Italy, but perhaps in isolated pockets of resistance in Scandinavia or the British Isles. The scientific revolution is delayed by centuries. The age of exploration, controlled and restricted by Mongol authorities who have no interest in European expansion. And the modern Middle East, shaped by the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and Western colonization, would be entirely different. Instead of Arab nationalism, instead of the post-colonial struggles we know, there might be a neo-Mongol identity, a fusion of Islamic, Christian, and Central Asian traditions under a single ancient imperial legacy. It's impossible to say if this world would be better or worse, but it would be unrecognizable. But we do not live in that world. We live in this one. Because on September 3rd, 1260, a group of former slaves turned soldiers stood their ground. They refused to submit, and they won. But why did they win? The Battle of Ain Jalut is not taught in most Western schools. It does not appear in the popular imagination the way Waterloo or Gettysburg does. But it should, because Ain Jalut was the moment the world held its breath and then exhaled. But here is the secret I promised you. The reason the Mamluks won at Ain Jalut wasn't just courage, it wasn't just tactics, it was timing. In August of 1259, a full year before Ain Jalut, Mongol Khan, the supreme ruler of the Mongol Empire, died during a campaign in China. When news reached Hulagu Khan in the Middle East, he did what every Mongol prince did when the great Khan died. He took the bulk of his army and marched back to Mongolia to secure the succession. He left behind only a skeleton force under General Kitbuka. Perhaps 20,000 men, a fraction of what he could have brought to bear. The Mamluks were brave, yes. Sultan Qutuz was brilliant, yes. But the vestige of history shows us that the Islamic world was saved by a heartbeat. If Mongol Khan hadn't died at that exact moment, the force at Ain Jalut would have been 10 times larger. The Mamluks would have faced not 20,000 Mongols, but 200,000. The miracle of Ain Jalut wasn't just iron and blood, it was timing. One death in China, one succession crisis in Mongolia, and the fate of 3 continents was decided. This is what we mean when we talk about the vestiges of Islam. Not just the artifacts and ruins, but the echoes, the invisible threads that connect a single death in China, a single decision by Hulagu, a single battle in Galilee, to the world you live in now. The Mamluks were not perfect. They were not saints, but they were there when it mattered. And because they were there, we are here. The Battle of Ain Jalut wasn't just a win for the Mamluks. It was a win for the future of the modern world. But it was also a reminder. History is decided by contingencies, by accidents, by deaths and decisions thousands of miles away. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the timelines of history, like this video and share it with someone who loves history. These stories matter. These moments matter. And if you have a theory about the Pax Mongolica, if you think Qutuz was a hero, or if you think he stopped something greater, let me know in the comments. I'm reading every single one.